The envelope trembled in my hands, its contents burning through the paper like acid. I stared at the photos spread across my kitchen table, each one a dagger to my heart. There was Isaac, my husband of 25 years, locked in an intimate embrace with a woman I'd never seen before. Young, beautiful, everything I used to be. Mom? Emily's voice startled me. I hastily gathered the photos, shoving them back into the envelope. What's wrong? I forced a smile. Nothing, sweetheart. Just some old papers. Emily's eyes narrowed. She'd always been perceptive, too smart for her own good. Mom, you're shaking. Before I could respond, the front door opened. Isaac's familiar footsteps echoed through the house. I felt my chest tighten, a mix of anger and betrayal threatening to choke me. Naomi? Emily? I'm home. His voice, once a comfort, now grated on my nerves. Emily looked from me to the doorway, confusion etched on her face. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. Emily, could you give your father and me a moment? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. She hesitated, then nodded, squeezing my hand before leaving the room. Isaac entered, his smile faltering as he caught sight of my expression. What's going on? He asked, loosening his tie. I slid the envelope across the table. Care to explain these? His face paled as he glanced at the contents. For a moment, silence hung heavy between us. Then, to my surprise, his shoulders sagged in what looked like relief. I'm sorry, Naomi, he said, not meeting my eyes. I've been meaning to tell you. I want a divorce. The words hit me like a physical blow. How long? I managed to choke out. 3 years, he admitted. Her name is Lydia. 3 years. A quarter of our marriage, gone in an instant. I thought of all the lies, the late nights at the office, the weekends away for work. How could I have been so blind? I think you should leave, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Isaac nodded, looking almost grateful. As he turned to go, I found my voice again. Does your mother know? He paused, his back to me. Yes. Rachel, she's known for a while. Course she did. My mother-in-law had never approved of me, always pushing Isaac to do better. I guess she finally got her wish. As the front door closed behind him, I heard Emily's muffled sobs from the other room. My heart broke anew, this time for my daughter. I wanted to comfort her, to tell her everything would be okay, but the truth was I had no idea what came next. One thing was certain, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cold cup of coffee when Emily burst in, her face flushed with anger. Mom, I need to tell you something, she said, her voice trembling. It's about Dad and Grandma Rachel. My stomach clenched. What is it, sweetie? Emily took a deep breath. I overheard them talking months ago. Grandma knew about the affair. She encouraged Dad to leave you. The mug slipped from my hand, shattering on the floor. Coffee splashed across my feet, but I barely noticed. Are you sure? Emily nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Mom. I should have told you sooner. I pulled her into a hug, my mind reeling. Rachel had always made it clear she thought Isaac could do better than me, but this was a betrayal I couldn't fathom. We need to confront her, I said, my voice steely with resolve. An hour later, we stood on Rachel's pristine porch. She answered the door, her smile faltering as she took in our expressions. Naomi, Emily, what a surprise, she said, her voice sickly sweet. Cut the act, Rachel, I snapped. We know you knew about Isaac's affair. That you encouraged it. Rachel's face hardened. I don't know what you're talking about. I heard you, Emily interjected. I heard you telling Dad to leave Mom. For a moment, Rachel looked cornered. Then her eyes narrowed. Well, can you blame him? Look at you, Naomi. You let yourself go years ago. It's no wonder Isaac found someone else. Her words stung, but I refused to let her see how much. You're his mother. You should have told me. Rachel laughed, a harsh sound. And ruin my son's chance at happiness? Please. This marriage was doomed from the start. I'm just glad Isaac finally saw sense. I felt Emily tense beside me, ready to lash out. I put a hand on her arm, stopping her. You're right about one thing, Rachel. This marriage is over. But so is any relationship you thought you had with us. As we turned to leave, I heard a familiar voice. Naomi, Emily, wait. It was Oliver, Isaac's younger brother, hurrying up the driveway. He glanced at Rachel, then back to us. I want to help. I know things about Isaac and Lydia. If you want the truth, I can get it for you. Rachel gasped. Oliver, don't you dare. But Oliver stood his ground. It's time for the truth, Mom. All of it. As we left Rachel sputtering on her porch, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, with Oliver's help, we could finally uncover the full extent of Isaac's betrayal. And maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to make him pay for it. Oliver's fingers flew across the keyboard, his face illuminated by the glow of the laptop screen. Emily and I huddled around him, our hearts pounding with anticipation. I can't believe I'm doing this, Oliver muttered, shaking his head. But Isaac's gone too far this time. With a few more keystrokes, Isaac's private email account sprang to life before our eyes. I felt a twinge of guilt, quickly overshadowed by a surge of righteous anger. There, Oliver said, pointing to a folder labeled Lydia. That's where you'll find everything. Emily clicked on the folder, and suddenly years of deceit unfolded before us. Emails, photos, even video calls, all meticulously cataloged. My stomach churned as I realized the extent of Isaac's betrayal. Mom, look at this, Emily gasped, opening an email thread. They'd been planning to move in together for months. I scanned the messages, each word a fresh wound. They discussed their future, their dreams, a life that didn't include me or Emily. But it was the casual cruelty that hurt the most. Can you believe Naomi still thinks I'm working late? One email from Isaac read. She's so clueless it's almost funny. Lydia's response made my blood boil. At least Emily's not around much. That girl's always been a daddy's girl. Bet she'd throw a fit if she knew. I felt Emily stiffen beside me, her face a mask of hurt and anger. How could he? She whispered. Oliver placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. I'm so sorry, both of you. I had no idea it was this bad. As we continued to scroll, a new email caught my eye. The subject line read, Naomi's birthday surprise. With trembling fingers, I clicked it open. Contents made me feel physically ill. Lydia, my love, Isaac had written. I've got the perfect plan. I'll tell Naomi I'm taking her on a surprise trip for her birthday. But instead of some romantic getaway, I'll serve her with divorce papers. It's time to end this charade once and for all. The room spun around me. I gripped the edge of the desk, trying to steady myself. Emily's arm wrapped around me, her voice distant as she asked if I was okay. In that moment, something inside me snapped. The hurt, the betrayal, the years of lies, it all crystallized into a burning desire for justice. I straightened up, meeting Emily's concerned gaze with steely determination. We're not going to let them get away with this, I said, my voice low and dangerous. It's time we fought back. Oliver nodded, a glint of admiration in his eyes. Whatever you need, I'm here to help. As we huddled together, plotting our next move, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger, yes, but also a sense of liberation. For the first time in years, I was taking control of my life. Isaac and Lydia had no idea what was coming. But they were about to find out that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, especially when that woman has a brilliant daughter and a tech-savvy brother-in-law on her side. The annual Turner family barbecue was in full swing when Emily and I arrived, our hearts pounding with nervous anticipation. Isaac and Lydia were already there, laughing with Rachel as if they didn't have a care in the world. The sight made my blood boil. Are you ready for this, Mom? Emily whispered, squeezing my hand. I nodded, clutching my purse where the damning evidence was safely tucked away. It's now or never. We made our way through the crowd, accepting hugs and greetings with forced smiles. When we reached Isaac, his face paled slightly. "Naomi, Emily," he said, his voice strained. "I'm glad you could make it." Lydia, standing beside him, had the audacity to smile at us. "It's so nice to finally meet you both properly." I felt Emily tense beside me, but I placed a calming hand on her arm. "Oh, the pleasure's all ours," I replied, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Before Isaac could respond, I raised my voice. "Everyone, if I could have your attention, please." Chatter died down as all eyes turned to me. I saw confusion on some faces, curiosity on others. Rachel looked positively alarmed. "I have an announcement to make," I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "It seems our dear Isaac has been keeping some secrets from us." Isaac stepped forward, his face a mask of panic. "Naomi, what are you doing?" I ignored him, pulling out the stack of emails and photos from my purse. "For the past 3 years, Isaac has been having an affair with Lydia here. And that's not all." As I began reading out loud the most damning excerpts, gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. I watched as Isaac's face crumpled, Lydia's confident smile faded, and Rachel's eyes darted around nervously. "And here's the kicker," I said, my voice rising. "Rachel knew about it all along. In fact, she encouraged it." The explosion of voices was immediate. Family members shouted questions, accusations flew, and in the midst of it all, I stood firm, Emily by my side. Isaac pushed through the crowd, his face red with anger and embarrassment. "How dare you?" he hissed. "This is a private matter." "Private?" I laughed bitterly. "Like the private plans you made to serve me divorce papers on my birthday?" More gasps. Isaac's face went from red to white in an instant. "Is that true, Isaac?" his father demanded, looking utterly disgusted. As the chaos swirled around us, I locked eyes with Rachel. For once, she looked small, her usual haughty demeanor crumbling under the weight of her exposed lies. "I think it's time you told everyone the truth, Rachel," I said, my voice carrying over the din, "about how you've been manipulating your son and tearing this family apart." Rachel's lips trembled, and for a moment I thought she might deny it. But then, to everyone's shock, she burst into tears. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I just wanted what was best for Isaac." The admission sent another wave of shock through the gathering. As accusations and arguments erupted all around us, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. Truth was out, and there was no going back. Emily slipped her arm around my waist. "You did it, Mom," she whispered proudly. I hugged her close, watching as our family grappled with the revelations. It wasn't pretty, and it certainly wasn't over. But for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe again. The road ahead would be tough, but with Emily by my side, I knew we could face whatever came next. The dust had barely settled from the family barbecue confrontation when the real fallout began. My phone buzzed incessantly with messages from family members, some offering support, others condemning my actions. Turner family was fractured, and I found myself at the center of the storm. "Mom, are you sure about this?" Emily asked as we packed the last of my belongings into boxes. The apartment I'd shared with Isaac for over 2 decades now felt like a stranger's home. I paused, a framed photo of happier times in my hands. "I have to do this, sweetie. For both of us." As we loaded the moving truck, I caught sight of Rachel across the street, watching us with a mix of guilt and defiance. Our eyes met briefly before she hurried away. The sight of her made my blood boil, but I forced myself to focus on the task at hand. My new apartment was smaller, but it was mine. As Emily helped me unpack, I felt a strange mix of liberation and terror. For the first time in my adult life, I was truly on my own. "What now?" Emily asked, collapsing onto the couch after we'd finished. I sighed, joining her. "Now we rebuild." The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers, mediators, and sleepless nights. Isaac fought tooth and nail for every asset, his guilt seemingly replaced by bitterness. Each encounter left me drained, questioning if I'd made the right choice in exposing him. It was during one particularly grueling mediation session that I hit my breaking point. Isaac's lawyer had just presented a proposal that would leave me with next to nothing. "You can't be serious," I sputtered, feeling the walls closing in. "After everything he's done?" Isaac smirked, and in that moment I saw the stranger he'd become. "You brought this on yourself, Naomi. You could have left quietly, but you had to make a scene." I stormed out of the office, tears blurring my vision. As I sat in my car trying to catch my breath, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Naomi, it's Martha from your building. I heard about what happened. There's a support group for divorced women meeting tonight. You should come." I hesitated, my finger hovering over the reply button. The thought of sharing my pain with strangers terrified me, but the alternative, facing this alone, was even worse. With shaking hands, I typed out a response. "Thank you, Martha. What time and where?" That evening, as I stood outside the community center where the group met, I felt a surge of panic. What if they judged me? What if I broke down in front of everyone? But as I pushed open the door and saw the circle of women, some teary-eyed, others smiling encouragingly, I felt something I hadn't in months: hope. Martha, a kind-faced woman in her 60s, waved me over. "Welcome, Naomi. You're safe here." As I took my seat, I realized I was at a crossroads. I could let Isaac's betrayal define me, or I could use it as a catalyst for change. Looking around at these women who had survived their own battles, I made my decision. It was time to stop being a victim and start being a survivor. I was just settling into my new routine when Emily burst into my apartment, her face flushed with excitement. "Mom, you won't believe what's happening." She thrust her phone at me, and I squinted at the screen. It was a social media post from Lydia, Isaac's mistress-turned-girlfriend. My heart raced as I read the caption. "Sometimes the grass isn't greener. Goodbye, Isaac." "Hello, Bali. What does this mean?" I asked, my mind whirling. Emily's grin was triumphant. "It means Lydia dumped Dad and ran off with his money." I sank onto the couch, a mix of emotions washing over me. Part of me felt a vindictive satisfaction, but another part ached for the man I once loved. Over the next few days, the story unfolded through a flurry of calls and messages. Lydia had convinced Isaac to invest heavily in a joint venture that turned out to be nothing more than a scheme to drain his accounts. She disappeared with nearly $500,000, leaving Isaac shell-shocked and broke. "He's a mess, Naomi," Oliver told me during a hushed phone call. "He's talking about trying to get you back, saying he made a huge mistake."
I felt a flicker of something, pity, nostalgia, but quickly squashed it. "Tell him it's too late," I said firmly. But Isaac wasn't giving up. He showed up at my office, looking haggard and desperate. "Naomi, please," he begged. "I was a fool. I see that now. Can't we start over?" I stood my ground, even as my heart raced. "No, Isaac. We can't." As word spread about Isaac's downfall, the family dynamics shifted once again. Rachel called, her voice tearful as she apologized for everything. "I was wrong about you, Naomi," she admitted. "You were always too good for him." It should have felt like victory, but instead, I felt hollow. The revenge I'd dreamed of had come, but not by my hand. And now, watching Isaac's life crumble, I realized the cost of such vengeance. That night, as I sat with Emily and Martha, discussing the latest developments, I had an epiphany. "I don't want to be defined by this anymore," I declared. "By Isaac, by the affair, by any of it." Martha squeezed my hand. "So what do you want, Naomi?" I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of clarity I hadn't experienced in months. "I want to move forward, to build something new, something that's entirely mine." Emily's eyes shone with pride. "That's my mom," she said softly. As we sat there, planning my next steps, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Isaac's betrayal had nearly broken me, but I was emerging stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace a future on my own terms. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, I knew that. But for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it might lead. The day of our freedom party arrived, and I felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. Emily and I had spent weeks planning this celebration of our new beginnings, but as guests began to arrive, I wondered if we were truly ready to close this chapter of our lives. Martha arrived early, helping us with last-minute preparations. "You've come so far, Naomi," she said, squeezing my hand. "Tonight is about you and Emily reclaiming your power." As more friends and family filled my new apartment, the energy was palpable. Laughter and chatter filled the air, a stark contrast to the tension that had dominated our lives for months. I caught Emily's eye across the room, and she gave me a thumbs up, beaming with pride. Midway through the evening, Emily clinked her glass, calling for attention. "Everyone, I'd like to propose a toast to my mom, the strongest woman I know." As all eyes turned to me, I felt a lump form in my throat. I hadn't prepared a speech, but suddenly words began to flow. A year ago, I thought my life was over. I began, my voice shaky but gaining strength. I felt betrayed, lost, and alone. But standing here tonight, I realized that what I thought was an ending was actually a beginning. I saw nods of encouragement from the crowd, urging me on. To those who stood by us, thank you. Your support gave us the strength to fight for ourselves. And to those who doubted us. I paused, thinking of Isaac and Rachel. Thank you too. You taught us the value of self-respect and the power of forgiveness. Just then, a commotion at the door caught everyone's attention. To my shock, Rachel stood there, looking uncertain and out of place. The room fell silent as she approached me, tears in her eyes. "Naomi, I'm so sorry. For everything. I was wrong about you, about everything. Can you ever forgive me?" Time seemed to stand still as I looked at the woman who had caused me so much pain. Part of me wanted to turn her away, to hold on to the anger that had fueled me for so long. But as I met Emily's gaze, I saw a reflection of my own journey, from hurt to healing. Taking a deep breath, I made a decision that would define the rest of my life. "Rachel," I said softly, "I forgive you." The tension in the room broke as Rachel embraced me, both of us crying. As we parted, I saw Isaac standing in the doorway, watching the scene unfold. Our eyes met briefly, and I saw regret, longing, and finally acceptance. Turning back to my guests, I raised my glass high. To new beginnings, to forgiveness, and to the family we choose. May we all find the strength to rise above our past and embrace our future. As cheers erupted around me, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in years, I was excited to see where it might lead. Tonight wasn't just about revenge or redemption. It was about reclaiming our lives and writing our own stories. The party continued late into the night, filled with laughter, tears, and hope. As the last guest left, Emily hugged me tight. "We did it, Mom," she whispered. "We really did it." Looking around at my new home, filled with memories of this night, I knew she was right. We had survived, we had thrived, and now, finally, we were free. A year had passed since the freedom party, and I barely recognized the woman I'd become. As I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my blazer for my first day as department manager, I marveled at the confidence in my eyes. "Mom, hurry up," Emily called from the kitchen. "We're going to be late for our big days." I smiled, remembering that Emily was starting her new role as team lead today too. We'd both come so far. Over breakfast, we reminisced about the past year. The early days of uncertainty, the triumphs, the setbacks. Martha had been right. Dating again was both terrifying and exhilarating. I'd met a kind widower named James, and while it was too early to tell where it might lead, I was enjoying the journey. As we were about to leave, my phone buzzed. It was Rachel. "Naomi, I just wanted to wish you luck today. I'm proud of you." Tears pricked my eyes. Our relationship was still fragile, but we were trying. It was more than I could say for Isaac, who'd moved away, unable to face the wreckage of his choices. At the office, I was greeted with warm smiles and congratulations. As I settled into my new role, directing projects and mentoring younger staff, I felt a sense of purpose I'd never experienced before. That evening, Emily and I met for a celebratory dinner. As we clinked glasses, she grinned. "You know, Mom, a part of me almost wants to thank Dad and Lydia." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh." She nodded. "If they hadn't betrayed us, we might never have discovered how strong we really are." Her words hit me like a revelation. She was right. The pain, the anger, the desire for revenge. It had all led us here, to this moment of triumph and peace. "To unexpected blessings," I said, raising my glass again. As we walked home under the stars, arm in arm, I reflected on our journey. We'd faced betrayal, fought for justice, and ultimately found redemption. Not in vengeance, but in forgiveness and growth. The apartment that had once felt empty now buzzed with life. Photos of our new adventures lined the walls, alongside mementos of the past. It wasn't about erasing what had happened, but about integrating it into the tapestry of our lives. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago. Broken, angry, lost. I wished I could reach back through time and tell her that not only would she survive, but she would thrive. The path of revenge had led us to an unexpected destination. We'd reclaimed our lives, not by destroying others, but by rebuilding ourselves. And in that rebuilding, we'd discovered a strength and resilience we never knew we possessed. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. For Emily, for Martha, for the friends who'd stood by us, for the challenges that had shaped us, and yes, even for Isaac and Lydia, whose actions had set us on this transformative journey. Tomorrow was a new day, full of possibilities. And for the first time in years, I couldn't wait to see what it would bring.